On her way home, she saw her boyfriend with a woman in the car. Her heart raced. Without hesitation, she told the motorcycle taxi to follow them. And what happened next was unbelievable. The air was thick and heavy that Miami afternoon, a humid haze that seemed to foreshadow a storm, brewing not in the sky but deep within Jessica's soul. The sun, a relentless orb of fire, scorched the pavement, sending waves of heat that warped the cityscape like a mirage. At her friend's apartment, light laughter and casual chatter tried but failed to shake off an unease Jessica couldn't quite name, a faint premonition that nestled in her chest like a shadow. She hugged her friend goodbye, the embrace lingering longer than usual, as if she were anchoring herself before stepping into an unknown tide. Jessica decided to head home. The weight of the day called for the comfort of her own space, the familiar warmth of Ryan, her boyfriend, the man she'd given not just the key to her condo, but the deepest corners of her heart. She opened a rideshare app on her phone, the screen glowing against the fading daylight, and booked a motorcycle taxi. It was the fastest way to weave through Miami's chaotic traffic, to slip through the pulsing arteries of the city. She adjusted her bag in her lap, a reflex, and climbed onto the bike. The engine's rumble a promise of motion and escape. Where to, she hadn't yet realized. The motorcycle took off, and the warm wind whipped her face, carrying the scent of ocean salt and asphalt, the soundtrack of a city that never slept. Miami's streets unfolded before her, a maze of neon lights and noise. Streetlights flickered on, casting a nostalgic amber glow over the scene. Jessica leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment, thinking of Ryan. He thought she was still at her friend's, lost in small talk. A harmless white lie. She'd left early, eager to surprise him, to catch the scent of him on her pillow. A faint smile played on her lips. She didn't know the surprise that night would be hers. Then, in a heartbeat, the world froze. Amid the endless stream of cars, a familiar shape sliced through her vision like a knife. A car. Not just any car. His car. A Ford Mustang black, with a small surfboard sticker on the rear window she'd stuck there one lazy Sunday. There it was, unmistakable, cruising through the same neighborhood she'd just left. A chill ran down her spine, goosebumps prickling despite the stifling heat. Her heart, steady moments ago, erupted into a frantic rhythm, drowning out the engine, the horns, the city's pulse. What's he doing here? The question detonated in her mind, not curiosity, but the fuse of a ticking bomb. He was supposed to be home, maybe at the office finishing a project, anywhere but here. This neighborhood wasn't on his route, had no reason to be. Then that voice, the intuition every woman carries like an inner compass, screamed. Not whispered, screamed with hurricane force. Something was horribly wrong. That car, in that place, at that moment, was a puzzle piece that didn't fit, a discordant note in the symphony of her love. Every fiber of her being vibrated with the certainty that she was about to uncover something that would shatter her. Her breath caught, her bag suddenly heavy as a stone. The world blurred, and the only sharp point was that black Mustang moving away, carrying her peace, her security, her trust. Instinct, survival or self-destruction, took over. She couldn't let it go. She couldn't go home and pretend nothing happened, letting doubt gnaw at her through the night. She had to see. She had to know. Even if the truth tore her apart. Trembling but with a voice steady as steel, she leaned forward, her breath hot on the driver's neck. The words spilled out before she could process them, a desperate command from her wounded core. "Sir, please follow that car. It's my boyfriend's." The driver, a middle-aged man with a face weathered by sun and streets, glanced at her through the small rearview mirror. His eyes, seasoned by Miami's chaos, met hers and paused. He saw the anguish, the urgency, the spark of madness in her gaze. He knew with the wisdom of the roads that these requests rarely ended well, a prelude to trouble he didn't want. But something in her voice, a raw vulnerability, a palpable pain, stopped him from refusing. He nodded, a barely perceptible tilt of the head, and with practiced caution gunned the engine, merging into the traffic's current, no longer just a driver, but an unwilling accomplice in a fate about to unfold. Jessica gripped the bike's handles tighter, her body rigid, knuckles white. Her eyes locked on Ryan's car, unblinking. Each meter the motorcycle gained, closing in on that vehicle, was a step toward the abyss. Suspicion, once a tiny seed, had grown into a monstrous tree, its roots choking her chest. She replayed the last weeks, months. Ryan's subtle shifts, his phone always face down now, calls answered in another room, late nights blamed on work. Puzzle pieces she'd refused to connect. Now that car ahead was the magnet pulling them together, forming a terrifying picture of betrayal. The silent chase through Miami's neon-lit streets wasn't just about following a car, it was about chasing the wreckage of her illusions, seeking a truth she felt would break her. The motorcycle darted through traffic with near-reckless agility, an extension of Jessica's urgency. Each car passed, each yellow light crossed at the last second, was a small victory in her desperate hunt. Ryan's Mustang stayed in sight, a spectre guiding her through the urban labyrinth. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a wild beat threatening to burst free. The world became a tunnel where only she, the bike, and Ryan's car existed. Everything else was a blur of lights and distorted sounds, the backdrop to her unfolding tragedy. The gap closed. Meter by meter, the driver brought her closer to the epicenter of her emotional quake. Jessica leaned forward, eyes burning from the wind and unblinking focus, straining for any detail through the rear window. Then, in a cruel, fleeting glance, she saw it. Not a clear image, but a shadow her brain processed faster than her eyes. A silhouette in the passenger seat, undeniably female, outlined by a streetlight's flash. Long hair, a shoulder that wasn't hers. Time stopped. The air she breathed turned to shards, shredding her lungs. Suspicion, anguish, intuition, all crystallized into a brutal certainty, a truth so heavy it crushed her. The ground didn't just vanish, the universe collapsed, leaving her in free fall through a void of pain and rage. Her blood, once chilled by panic, now boiled, a molten fury rising from her betrayed soul. The Jessica who loved, who smiled, who dreamed was gone. In her place was a primal force, a storm of raw emotion ready to erupt. And erupt she did. Her voice wasn't hers. It was a guttural scream, the sound of a heart breaking. "Stop the car, Ryan! Stop it now!" The cry sliced through the traffic's din, a siren of despair that startled even the seasoned driver. It wasn't a plea, it was a command, carrying years of love and devotion desecrated in one moment. She didn't think of consequences, of bystanders, of danger. Her world narrowed to one need: confrontation. She needed to look into his eyes, her eyes, and make them face the pain they'd caused. Inside the black Mustang, her scream hit like a bullet. Ryan, driving with the nonchalance of someone with nothing to hide, glanced in the rearview mirror. What he saw froze him. Jessica, on the back of a motorcycle, her face transformed by rage, her mouth open in a silent scream he could almost hear again. Panic seized him. The adrenaline of guilt, the purest kind, flooded his system. There was no explaining, no justifying. He'd been caught. Fate, or his own stupidity, had trapped him. His only instinct wasn't to face her, but to flee. His foot slammed the accelerator, the engine roared, and the car surged forward, desperate to escape the haunting image of his failure chasing him. The sudden acceleration was a confession. To Jessica, it was as if he'd shouted back, "Yes, it's true, and you won't catch me." His flight sealed his betrayal. The driver, caught in the crossfire, slowed instinctively. He glanced at Jessica in the mirror, his face a mask of concern. "Ma'am, I can't get involved in this. This is too much trouble. It's going to be a problem for me, for you." His words were reasonable, prudent, but reason had abandoned Jessica long ago. She turned to him, eyes bloodshot, tears finally breaking through, mixing with sweat and dust. Her voice cracked, a desperate plea that could move mountains. "For God's sake, I'll pay you double, triple. I'll give you whatever you want, just don't let him get away." Each word was a piece of her soul laid bare. "I need to catch him in the act. I can't take this anymore. I can't keep being played for a fool. Please, sir, please." Her transformation, from fury to raw vulnerability, convinced him. He saw not just anger, but the agony of a woman at her breaking point. A simple man, a father of 2 daughters. He imagined one of them in her place. His heart clenched. He sighed, a sound of resignation, as if accepting a call from fate. He wasn't just a driver anymore. He was the knight of a dethroned queen seeking justice. Without a word, he leaned forward, a racer's stance, and twisted the throttle. The engine roared, and they shot forward, the chase now a dangerous, intense pursuit. The wind lashed Jessica's face, trying to steal her tears, but she barely felt it. Nothing would stop her from reaching the truth. Physical pain was nothing compared to the wound bleeding in her chest. Ryan's car weaved through traffic, a desperate dance of escape. But the motorcycle, agile and relentless, mirrored every move, a shadow of guilt he couldn't shake. The hunt was far from over. It was just beginning. The chase became a fevered dance with death, a ballet of metal and despair under Miami's amber lights. Ryan's Mustang cut through traffic like a wounded beast, wild and erratic. The motorcycle, driven with a skill born of necessity, followed like a vengeful spirit, refusing to be shaken. For Jessica, the world was a high-speed blur. The wind was no longer a caress, but an assailant, stealing her breath and stinging her eyes with her own tears. Every muscle was taut, a live wire ready to snap. She didn't fear the physical danger, the fall, the crash. Her only terror was losing sight of that car, letting Ryan and his anonymous accomplice vanish into the night, laughing at her pain. Then, as if by divine intervention or cruel irony, a red light flared ahead, bright, unyielding. The traffic light turned red. For a moment that stretched into eternity, fate seemed to side with Jessica, handing her the chance she craved. The cars ahead slowed, and Ryan, trapped by the wall of metal, had no choice but to stop. The Mustang sat still, just yards away from the motorcycle, a perfect trap. Jessica's heart lurched so violently she tasted blood. This was it. The curtain was rising for the final act. Adrenaline, already coursing through her, hit its peak, a volatile fuel. There was no rational thought, only instinct. Pain, rage, humiliation, the sting of betrayal, they fused into an overwhelming impulse. Still on the bike, barely stopped, Jessica's hands flew to her head. Her fingers, fueled by blind fury, found the helmet strap. With a sharp click, she released it. She tore it off, her hair whipping free like dark flames. The helmet, once a shield, became a weapon in her hand, an extension of her shattered soul. In an explosive arc of catharsis, she hurled it. The helmet soared, a dark projectile against the city's lights, spinning in slow motion for an eternal second before finding its mark. Crash. The sound wasn't just noise, it was a fracture in reality. The Mustang's rear window didn't just crack, it shattered. It exploded into a shower of countless glass shards, glinting under the streetlight, before raining onto the seats and asphalt. The echo of destruction reverberated, silencing horns and chatter. Pedestrians turned, faces a mix of shock and morbid curiosity. Other drivers stared, disbelieving at a scene straight out of an action movie. Inside the car, chaos erupted. The woman whose silhouette had haunted Jessica reacted with animal panic. She ducked, contorting to hide below the window line, as if invisibility could erase her presence and guilt. Ryan was consumed by blind, absolute panic. The reality hit him like a punch. His girlfriend, in a fit of rage, had just smashed his car in a busy intersection. The light was still red, a judging crimson eye, but he didn't think twice. Instinct overpowered sense. He slammed the gear shift, the car lurched, and with tires screeching, he sped through the intersection, ignoring the light, the cars, the danger. He vanished into the next street's darkness, leaving behind a trail of glass and a public scandal. Jessica screamed, a continuous cry of pain and frustration, but her voice was frail, swallowed by the roar of Ryan's engine and the growing buzz of onlookers. He'd escaped. Again. The driver, watching with wide eyes, turned to her. His initial concern had become genuine alarm. He saw her face, tears burning, her expression a mix of helpless fury, and noticed the missing helmet. He sighed, a man in deeper than he'd planned. "Ma'am, this is getting too dangerous. You're without a helmet now, and with all due respect, that helmet wasn't cheap." The mention of its cost felt like an insult to her pain's magnitude. Jessica met his gaze, eyes pleading, voice hoarse with emotion. "Don't stop, please. He's not going to fool me again," she insisted, determination rising from her frustration's ashes. "I'll buy you another helmet. I'll pay whatever. Just go after him." She gave him no time to respond. Pointing toward the street Ryan had taken, her arm shook, but her command was absolute. The driver looked at the desperate, unprotected woman on his bike, then at the chaotic street, and made his choice. This drama was his now too. With a final sigh, he gunned the engine, plunging into the night after the fugitive, both now partners in a perilous, no-turning-back chase. Miami's night, once a neutral backdrop, now felt complicit in the mad pursuit. The motorcycle, its engine roaring like a wild beast, devoured the asphalt. Driven by the promise of payment and perhaps a twisted sense of justice the driver now shared, Jessica, on the back, was fury incarnate. Without a helmet, the wind lashed her face mercilessly, but she didn't flinch. Each gust was a slap, a reminder of the humiliation driving her forward. Her hair flew wildly, a banner of her personal war. Her eyes, fixed on the Mustang's jagged rear window, burned with tears and hate. Ryan drove like a man possessed by panic's demon. The car's destruction, the public scene, the certainty of being caught in the worst way, turned him from a sly traitor into a desperate fugitive. He made sharp turns, veered into unfamiliar streets, his only goal to lose the motorcycle clinging to him like a curse. He didn't know this part of Miami well, a maze of narrow, dimly lit roads, and that ignorance would seal his next mistake. In a frantic bid for escape, he yanked the wheel and turned into a street that seemed darker, tighter. For a moment he sped up, believing he'd found freedom. But the road narrowed, flanked by high walls and silent houses. Then he saw it. At the end, a concrete wall unyielding, scrawled with graffiti and the silent warning of his fatal error. A rusted dead-end sign mocked him in the shadows. He was trapped. For Jessica, that moment was like the heavens parting. As the motorcycle entered the street and its headlight lit the dead end, revealing Ryan's car, stopped abruptly before the wall, a cry of triumph and relief nearly escaped her lips. Her heart, racing with panic, now surged with victory. It was over. No more running. The truth would be faced. This was her chance, the confrontation fate owed her. Before the bike fully stopped, impatience and fury consumed her. She couldn't wait another second. She leapt off in motion, a reckless, dangerous move. Her feet hit the ground, but her body, driven by speed and emotion, couldn't keep up. The uneven, potholed street betrayed her. Her ankle twisted. Balance abandoned her at the critical moment. With a dull thud, she fell. The fall was brutal, humiliating. Her knees slammed into the hard ground, pain shooting up her legs. Instinctively, she threw out her hands and her palms scraped the rough asphalt, skin tearing in a sharp sting. Dust dirtied her clothes, staining them with defeat. For a moment, she stayed there on all fours, gasping, the physical pain mingling cruelly with the crushing humiliation of falling at her betrayer's feet. It was as if the ground itself punished her for daring to demand the truth. As Jessica struggled to rise, her breath hissing, Ryan saw his chance. The panic that froze him turned cold, calculated. He didn't get out to help. He didn't ask if she was okay. His only thought was escape. With shocking brutality, he threw the car into reverse. The engine screamed, the car jerked back, tires screeching, kicking up dust and debris. He maneuvered frantically, nearly scraping the walls, intent on blocking Jessica, now staggering to her feet from reaching the passenger door where his accomplice cowered, a silent, guilty presence. Jessica, unsteady but standing, stepped forward, arm outstretched, mouth open to scream his name, to demand he face her. But it was too late. With a final sharp turn, Ryan aligned the car toward the street's exit. He didn't look at her. No glance, no remorse. He just floored the gas. The car shot out, passing inches from her, the wind ruffling her clothes. In seconds, he turned the corner and vanished, leaving only the engine's echo, the smell of burnt rubber, and a crushing silence. Jessica stood in the dark street, scraped, dirty, her soul in tatters. The adrenaline that sustained her faded, leaving a cold void. The strength that drove her dissolved, her legs trembling, threatening to give way. She stared at the corner where he'd disappeared, and reality hit like a punch to the gut. He'd escaped. Worse, he'd seen her fall and used her vulnerability to flee. The betrayal of her body joined the betrayal of her soul, a layer of cruelty she'd never imagined possible. The driver, watching helplessly, turned off the bike and ran to her. The street's silence was filled only by Jessica's ragged breathing. He reached her and, with a gentleness that contrasted the scene's brutality, touched her shoulder. "Ma'am," he began, his voice thick with genuine compassion. He helped her sit on the curb under a lone streetlight's faint glow. He pulled a small handkerchief from his pocket and awkwardly offered it to wipe the blood seeping from her scraped hands. "Ma'am, let's go home. This isn't worth your health. He's not worth you lying on the ground like this." His simple, heartfelt words broke her last barrier. The tears came, not of rage, but a deep, wrenching sob from her core, a lament for losing not just a love, but herself. She cried for the humiliation, the physical pain, the shame of exposing herself, for fighting so hard only to be left behind like trash, too drained to argue, to beg for another futile chase. She nodded. The driver helped her up and onto the bike. The ride back was a blur of silence and pain. The wind felt cold now, each city light a witness to her defeat. At her building's door she dismounted like a robot. Shaking, she opened her bag, pulled out all the cash she had, and handed it to the man who'd been her ally and sole witness. It was far more than triple the fare, enough for a new helmet, maybe two. A payment for his loyalty, his compassion, a final gesture to close that terrible chapter. He tried to refuse the excess, but her look silenced him. She entered her building without looking back, rode the elevator staring at her disheveled reflection, and stepped into her condo, where silence wrapped her like a shroud. The home that was once a sanctuary was now a mausoleum, haunted by a love revealed as a lie. She dragged herself to the couch and collapsed, body aching, heart shattered, soul crushed by a weight that felt unbearable, the shame of fighting and losing. The days after that fateful night weren't measured by time, but by silence's depth. Jessica's condo, once a haven of love, became an echo chamber for her pain. Every corner held a memory that stabbed her. The framed photo on the shelf with Ryan's fake smile, the coffee mug he used daily, the empty side of the bed like a cold abyss. Miami's relentless sun and bustle felt like an insult to her paralysis. She moved through her home like a ghost, her body bruised from the fall, her soul wounded deeper. First came furious denial. She couldn't accept his silence. Not after everything. The image of Ryan speeding away, leaving her on the asphalt, was an open wound pulsing in her mind. She needed an explosion, a confrontation, the catharsis the chase hadn't given. She grabbed her phone, hands still shaking, and dialed his number. Once, twice, 3 times. The calls rang into the void, landing in voicemail, its robotic voice mocking her urgency. Each unanswered call fueled her rage, a black tide threatening to drown her. She didn't want explanations. She wanted to scream, to throw every broken promise, every whispered lie, every piece of her shattered heart in his face. She turned to texts. The first were a flood of accusations, paragraphs typed in blind fury. "Coward! You left me on the ground. Who was she, Ryan?" The words were bullets fired at a wall of indifference. The 2 blue ticks of read receipts appeared, but no reply came. It was a new torture, the digital cruelty of the 21st century. He was reading. He saw her desperation, her anger, and chose to ignore her. Each silent hour was passive violence, a declaration she wasn't worth even a typed lie. He wasn't just ignoring her, he was erasing her as if the chase and their entire relationship had never happened. After days in this cycle of rage and frustration, something shifted. The fire of anger, without a response to fuel it, began to die, leaving cold ashes of exhaustion. Her body healed before her soul. The scrapes on her hands and knees scabbed over, visible signs of recovery. Slowly, painfully, her mind followed. Ryan's silence, once torture, became an answer. The clearest, most honest he could give. It was the answer of a man who didn't care, a coward who wouldn't face his actions' consequences. Then, at the bottom of that despair, his message arrived. A small text bubble on her screen, almost harmless. Her heart leapt, a foolish spark of hope. Maybe an apology? A sign of remorse? She opened it, and the words were crueler than silence. "You're seeing things that aren't there. It was just a friend." "I didn't stop because I know you're dramatic. Didn't want a scene in the street." Jessica read it once, twice, 3 times. Each word was poison. He wasn't just lying, he was rewriting reality. He used her reaction to his betrayal to justify his cowardice, calling her dramatic, painting her as unhinged and himself as the victim avoiding a scene. It was gaslighting, pure and vicious. He wanted her to doubt her own eyes, her pain, the indelible image of a woman hiding in his car, and the sound of shattering glass. But something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking, Jessica felt a cold, sharp clarity. The message didn't destroy her. It freed her. It was the final puzzle piece, the confirmation she needed. This wasn't the Ryan she loved, or maybe that Ryan never existed. He was a stranger, a cold manipulator. The pain didn't vanish, but the confusion did, replaced by granite certainty. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't dramatic. She was a woman betrayed and humiliated, her reaction that of a heart in pieces. His message didn't weaken her. It liberated her. She decided she wouldn't shed another tear for him. He didn't deserve her anger, her pain, or her love. She'd grown stronger, not despite the pain, but because of it. She chose to move on. While Jessica fought her inner battle, the world began to tilt in her favor. Wynwood, where the chase had peaked, wasn't like the rest of Miami. It was a tight-knit community, a small town within the city, where news traveled faster than the wind. The scene of a woman hurling a helmet at a fleeing car didn't go unnoticed. The neighborhood's grapevine, texts, whispers, barbershop talk, was abuzz. Her phone started ringing, not with Ryan's name. Friends, neighbors, acquaintances from the beach. People who'd seen it or heard from those who had. The first call was from Mrs. Lopez, who ran the corner bodega. "Sweetie, I heard what happened. Forget that jerk. You're a gem. You don't deserve this shame." Next, a childhood friend who'd seen Ryan's car speeding by. "Jess, drop Ryan. He's no good. I've seen him around with other women, not the first time. You don't deserve this. He's always had that rep. We just didn't tell you to spare your feelings." Each call, each text was a balm to her wounded soul. Their words didn't judge her dramatic reaction. They validated it. They confirmed her intuition, her pain. Stories of Ryan's other women, his other lies, didn't hurt anymore. They reinforced what she knew. The problem was never her. It was him. With the dignity she still had, now bolstered by this unexpected wave of support, Jessica made her final choice. She wouldn't reply to his message. No more screams, fights, or pleas. She deleted his number, blocked him on every platform, and began the painful but necessary process of purging him from her life. Photos, gifts, memories went into a box, not to burn in anger, but to stow in a dark closet, relics of a past she was determined to overcome. She drew a line, not for him, but for her. She didn't want to see his face, not even in a photo. The battle was over, and though her heart bore scars, she'd won the war. Time, that relentless healer, began weaving its tapestry over Jessica's wounds. The first weeks were a grey haze, even under Miami's blazing sun. The pain lingered, a constant companion, but no longer suffocating. It was a phantom ache, the memory of a lost limb. Slowly, with her friends' unwavering support and the neighborhood's validation, Jessica rediscovered herself. She cleaned her condo of Ryan's traces and her soul of his shadow. Anger faded to quiet melancholy, and melancholy gave way to the seed of rediscovery. She returned to the things she loved, forgotten in the relationship's routine. Morning walks along South Beach, the ocean air on her face. Hours in bookstores, lost in paper worlds. She picked up painting, an old passion, her first strokes hesitant, but soon flowing with vibrant colors, filling blank canvases as she filled her life's voids. Each painting was a step, each color an emotion processed. She wasn't just healing, she was rebuilding brick by brick, a version of herself that didn't need anyone's approval. A stronger, wiser Jessica, her gaze carrying the weight of someone who'd walked through fire and returned. One Saturday night, Months after the chase, her friends coaxed her out. "Enough hiding, Jess. Life's out there. The music's calling," said Mia, her liveliest friend. Crowds still made her nervous, but she felt ready. Another step. They went to a lively bar in Coconut Grove, known for its pulsing reggaeton and carefree vibe. The air buzzed with drums, guitars, and laughter. Jessica, initially shy, let the energy take her. She ordered a mojito, felt the rhythm in her bones, and, for the first time in ages, smiled. A real smile from within lighting her face. Mid-laugh, a chill ran through her, a silent alarm from her sharpened instincts. She scanned the room, and there she was. Across the bar near the counter stood Lauren. Jessica didn't need confirmation. The face, seen only in tagged social media photos, was unmistakable. The woman whose silhouette in Ryan's car had shattered her world. Everyone in their circle knew who Ryan's mistress was. His secret was a poorly kept lie. For a moment, Jessica's heart froze. The music faded, laughter turned to a hum, and the floor seemed to sway. Memories of that night, the chase, the broken glass, the humiliating fall, hit like a blow. But the Jessica standing there, in that pulsing bar, wasn't the woman who'd wept on the asphalt. The wave of panic met a wall of newfound strength. Her face, briefly faltering, hardened into calm resolve. At that moment, as if linked by fate's invisible thread, Lauren looked up. Their eyes locked across the crowd. Lauren's gaze was a mix of surprise, fear, and defiant arrogance. Jessica's was pure, calm observation. No hate, no rage, just the clarity of someone seeing from above with the distance time and healing provide. In that fleeting second, Jessica didn't see a rival. She saw a woman who'd soon likely be in her place, trapped in the same cycle of lies and manipulation. Her friends, sensing her shift, followed her gaze and understood. "Jess, let's go," one whispered, ready to shield her, but Jessica raised a hand. "No, wait here. I need to do this." With a calm that surprised her, Jessica walked forward. Each step toward Lauren was steady, deliberate. She crossed the crowd not with anger, but with the grace of someone owning her ground. People parted, perhaps sensing the silent tension. As she neared, she glimpsed Ryan in a dim corner, watching. He saw her, saw Lauren, saw the collision coming. True to form, he shrank back, paralyzed by cowardice, unable to protect his prize or face his past. Jessica stopped a step from Lauren. The reggaeton played on, a surreal soundtrack to their silent standoff. She met her eyes not with superiority but as equals. Then, with a steady voice, no tremor, laced with sharp, almost pitying irony, she said, "You think you've hit the jackpot, don't you?" Lauren stayed silent, her arrogance crumbling into visible unease. She swallowed hard. Jessica gave a faint, almost imperceptible smile and continued, her voice low, just for them. "Enjoy your golden ticket while it lasts, because he'll do to you what he did to me. That prize you won, it's got an expiration date." She didn't wait for a reply. Nothing Lauren could say mattered. This wasn't about her or Ryan. It was about Jessica, her final act of freedom. She turned, head high, no regret, no glance back. It wasn't vengeance, it was peace. A cycle closed. She rejoined her friends, who looked at her with awe and relief. "It's done," Jessica said, and a weight she hadn't known she carried dissolved. But the night had one more twist. As they prepared to head elsewhere, a man who'd been sitting near the band, one Jessica had noticed for his kind smile, approached. It was the driver. Dressed up, no uniform but unmistakable. Their eyes met, and he smiled. "Ma'am, Jessica, right? I never forgot that night." Jessica, momentarily speechless, smiled back. "And I never forgot your help. Sorry again about the helmet." "Forget it," he laughed. "With what you paid, I got 3 new helmets and took my girls to Disney. I just wanted to say I'm glad you're okay, really. You look at peace." His words, from the only witness to her lowest moment, meant more than he could know. They were proof of her inner transformation. They talked briefly, a light, genuine exchange. His name was Marcus, a good man, a hard worker doing rideshare gigs to make ends meet. That chance meeting, a nod from fate, sealed the night with hope and humanity. Jessica and her friends moved to another bar, and the night grew lighter, happier. She danced, laughed, and celebrated, not a victory over Ryan or Lauren, but over herself. She'd faced her demons and emerged not unscathed but whole, stronger, wiser. She was, at last, free. Free from a love that diminished her, from betrayal's shadow, free to write her life's next chapter in her own colors, on her own canvas, the author of her own happy ending. And you, which city are you watching this story from? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear. Don't forget to like the video, it really helps the channel grow. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any exciting stories. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.